Living on fire has a direct relationship with what it means to be truly alive. You could look at it as a philosophy or way of life, a mindset, and leave it as just that. But I'm a fan of putting light on the esoteric meaning and how this has to do with your direct experience of reality. What I'm going to talk about more so are the mechanics or engineering of how being truly alive in your fullest creative expression works, and where living on fire gets its name from. Living on fire is the product of being truly alive and having that congruence, that creative expression when the communication between your unique design as you meet source. As that flame of creative expression is ignited and the spiritual fire within you grows, it eventually becomes ablaze and non-extinguishable. I invite you to find a safe place to start a fire from scratch. Study its beginnings, how the initial flame is sparked, how it needs the smaller kindling to support its growth, and eventually sustained for longer periods of time with less maintenance. Similarly to the spiritual fire, as it grows, it somewhat takes care of itself. Blazing, it needs less maintenance. The pieces a regular fire needs to keep its size, heat, and radiance either need to be as large or even larger. At the same time, you don't want the fire to go outside the bounds you've given it as to not become a disruptive fire. Too much or too little of the fuel to sustain it impacts whether it grows or eventually goes out. Without diving too deeply, it is simplest to say that the spiritual fire within us needs this same type of attention and care if we want it to grow. Now, in How to Be Truly Alive, I mentioned how this process is similar to the physical digestive system. The spiritual fire breaks down the fuel given to it, and the nourishment is extracted to nourish you. But here we don't mean your physical body, we mean your psychic and energetic body. On the mystical pursuit, we can consciously choose the forms of nourishment we want to bring into our being. Instead of unconsciously throwing anything into the spiritual fire, we have an opportunity to be selective and optimize our spiritual diet. Where and how do we get psychic and energetic nourishment from? We get it from life experiences. Similar to a meal, there's all kinds of different nutrients in it that are important for us. Life experiences also have different forms of nourishment or soul food that are important for our vitality and well-being. And sometimes, unfortunately, they contain substances that are especially difficult to process and burn up before it becomes toxic, resulting in imbalance and discomfort. The stronger the spiritual fire, the more capable you are of processing the entirety of a life experience or moment more fully. When the fire is not strong and not able to process our life experiences fully, what remains becomes more embedded and makes up our being. It's immovable and becomes infused into our sense of self. I'm sure you've heard of the saying, you are what you eat. It's not so black and white, but the health of our body and mind are highly impacted by our intake of proper nutrition or lack thereof. When the spiritual fire is made strong, it allows for more fluidity of your sense of self and opens the possibilities of you becoming unstuck and able to transform. Much of the mystic journey is about opening up our being, freeing ourselves of being stuck in our ways. So we allow ourselves to change and become ourselves in fullest creative expression, our highest potential. If we are stuck in our ways, we are not able to thrive. If we create the conditions for our spiritual fire to grow and become stronger, we give ourselves more mobility, especially on a psychic and energetic level. We shift away from being reactive to those parts that could not be broken down and more responsive to life experiences because we're becoming more free to simply be. That then allows for thriving in life. This is a state of mind and profound sense of contentment that is felt when we are aligned with our sense of purpose, our destiny, and who we are. Thriving in life becomes more apparent when you, as you, are made up uniquely, and I mean you specifically, become more synced with Source. To go deeper into understanding of thriving, or what's called eudaimonia, I recommend exploring this topic more in the Thriving segment within the Modern Mysticism series. In addition to life experiences, aspects of the personality, thought patterns, vices, emotional patterns, and past stories are what the mystic can intentionally add as fuel and kindling as part of the inner alchemical process. For those who are experienced and have already spent a lot of time studying and practicing, initiatory names and certifications as part of the vanity and narrative of what you are, especially make good kindling for the alchemical flames within you. One of the major activities of the mystic is to take aspects of the self that is in this stuck pattern, not allowing for ultimate freedom of creative expression, and intentionally place them into their internal furnace. When this is done with intention and awareness during the act, this is an offering. An offering of oneself or part of oneself can be done in contemplation, alchemical exercises, and ceremonially. We are offering up the parts that do not allow for freedom or being truly alive. And how strong our spiritual fire decides how well that is broken down. Simultaneously, what is being offered becomes replaced on a new, higher level. This can feel vulnerable, and cultivation of surrender in this act allows for the space for Source to reveal itself more in your being and your life. This freed up space allows for you to actively create new aspects of yourself, including your energy, habits, character traits that you want to express and bring into the world. This is an essential part of what soul crafting is, which I discuss more deeply in the Modern Mysticism series. Even deeper into the courses themselves, it becomes much clearer how living on fire includes soul crafting through the application of the internal alchemical processes. Working with the inner furnace, the heart as the hearth, growing the spiritual fire, and increasing your capacity for creative expression and embodying your greater potential. For now, it can serve you very well to contemplate these concepts and find what inspires you. All right, let's move into this next practice together. I'm going to walk you through each step, so just follow along at your own pace. First, bring your awareness down to your lower abdomen. Imagine there's a warm, glowing fire right there in your belly, like a hearth that's been burning steadily, radiating heat and light. Now, take a moment to think about a part of yourself or a quality that doesn't really serve your highest potential. Maybe it's a habit, a fear, a pattern of thinking, whatever comes up for you. Don't judge it, just acknowledge it. Once you've identified that quality, I want you to visualize it as clearly as you can. What does it look like? How does it feel in your body? Really connect with it for a moment. Now, here's where the transformation happens. Imagine taking that part or quality and placing it directly into your inner fire. Watch what happens. You can get creative here. Maybe it turns into smoke that rises and dissipates, or maybe it becomes ash that settles. See it separating out, the nourishment being absorbed, the toxins being released. Notice how, as this quality is consumed by the fire, the flames grow brighter and stronger. That fire is your own vital energy, and it's expanding now. Feel your whole being becoming brighter, more expansive, lighter. You've transformed what no longer serves you into fuel for your growth. Now, take a deep breath and just sit with that feeling for a moment. This is the practice of making offerings to your spiritual fire. The more you do this with your intention and awareness, the stronger your inner fire grows. Now, let's return to the thread about how the spiritual fire grows. Let's ask in this moment, to what end do we cultivate this spiritual fire? As the inner fire grows, this causes a key function we inherently have in our design to activate. This key function is precisely the mystical aim, which is to process and break down life experiences faster and more efficiently than we normally would on an unconscious level. When we have the capacity to do this, we are able to fully extract the important nutrients without anything going to waste. If we look at it like digestion again, it's ideal to fully digest our food, not hold on to toxins or to become constipated, which is an uncomfortable feeling. On a psychic and energetic level, the spiritual fire can process what we bring into our being faster and more efficiently for optimal psychic, energetic, and spiritual health on the deeper levels of our being, which of course in turn supports our physical well-being. When we do not consciously grow our spiritual fire within, there can be challenges breaking down our life experiences and fully extracting the wisdom and the lessons to learn and grow more. We can become stuck and constipated. This can look like being trapped in our narrative, repeating unresolved stories of trauma, and more. To make it very simply put, the human design that we are embodied as is like an alchemical mechanism that processes life experience, our soul food, that helps us to extract the lessons and wisdom for spiritual growth. And to what end? To be truly alive and fully in our creative expression according to our unique design. Well, how do you know when you are going in the right direction? As I shared in the How to Be Truly Alive discussion, it is those moments that make you light up, that point you in the right direction. While exploring what makes you light up, this acts as a guide. However, what is the tell sign that the spiritual fire has gone beyond being a simple flame and become a blaze? Here is the distinct sign. When more challenging life experiences are had, you have done these things. You have extracted all the wisdom and lessons from the experience. You have grown wiser and also Sometimes the hardest thing to do for the toughest experiences is that you are deeply and sincerely grateful for it in the end. We'll have to save how there is a very intimate relationship between gratitude the mystic develops and their living on fire way of being in another discussion for another time. There's so much that can be said to this. For now, gratitude you can look at as the key to opening your heart, acting as the inner hearth of the spiritual fire within you. When the spiritual fire grows and you have the capacity to process life experiences more fully, so does your gratitude grow. On the mystic journey, it is possible to be alive in the fullest sense, in the most meaningful way, and to consume all life experience in such a way that all of what remains is gratitude. This makes our being feel lighter and more freed from burden, creating the conditions to continue truly living in this way when our physical body dies. There is more that can be said on this in the death and dying discussions. We will also have a chance to go deeper into how embodying gratitude is the result of being truly alive and consciously living on fire in the mystical meaning. So, as you continue on your mystic journey, I invite you to become aware of your spiritual fire. Notice what fuels it, notice what contributes to it going out. Begin to consciously choose what you add to your internal furnace. In later discussions, we'll get to continue exploring these alchemical processes and dive deeper into the practices that nurture your spiritual fire.